Joining me now is the Minister of Small Business, Lindiwe Zulu, and also the CEO of Nedbank, Mike Brown. Thank you so much for joining me. Minister, let's start with you. Do you think you've seen enough relief for small businesses?
Well, there can never be enough if you look at the challenge that has always faced small and medium enterprises. But however, if you consider the circumstances under which we were formed when the economy wasn't doing so very well, I think that I will work around what has been given because I do understand that frame. But I also think that a lot of money sits somewhere else, including within business, because I know that they're doing a whole lot of work in terms of training in particular and loans that they are doing. So I'm happy with what I have, but I'll also be looking around from all the different government departments as to what do they have for small business development and cooperatives.
Mike, I think the Minister there makes a point that private public sector participation and partnerships are potentially the saving grace for small businesses going forward in South Africa.
I think it's an absolutely key part. You know, when the economy is growing as slowly as it is right now, when small businesses are trying to deal with the electricity constraints that they've got and maybe they can't afford to have their own generators, you know, certainly if we look into our client base, it's the small businesses who are getting the most squeezed at the moment. So I think any relief that comes in their direction will be hugely welcome.
Mike mentions the power generation. Minister, this must be impacting small businesses in a big way. Can we get your thoughts?
Absolutely, without doubt. That is a fact. There are practical issues where, for instance, the smallest that you can get hair salons, when they are busy in the hair salon and suddenly the electricity goes off. The seamstresses in the little corners when they're busy doing somebody's dress and suddenly the electricity goes off. So it is a challenge. It is something that we're looking at as a small business development, but we're hoping that the interventions that government is trying to put in place are going to be of assistance. But we are appreciative and we do understand that it has a terribly negative impact on small businesses.
Mike, no change in VAT, no change in corporate tax rates. We've seen taxes on individuals increasing, that top marginal tax rate now at 41%, and then the fuel levy increase, perhaps the biggest surprise, or was it a surprise in the budget?
So I think the Minister did a really good job in his maiden speech. You know, he's got a very tough set of circumstances that he's got to deal with. An economy growing slowly, which means less revenue creation. I think what I really liked was his emphasis on efficient spending within government. And then off the back of that, if top marginal tax rates are going to go up 1%, I think anybody can see the need for that to keep the fiscal deficit narrower. And then, you know, I think it would be sensible to take advantage of the drop in the oil price to use that to lift the levy so people are perhaps paying less, but maybe not as much as they previously would have paid less, if that makes sense.
What else would you have liked to see, Minister, coming to the fore? You say you'll take what you've been given and you'll work with that, and you're grateful for it. But are there other easy, quick wins that could have been thrown the way of small business in South Africa?
I think those quick wins are going to be thrown in by the different ministers because one expects that most of them will talk about what is available and possible for small business development. The details will come out, for instance, when we present our first budget, which will be our first, and it's a vote already. So we will not be now presenting it under the DTI. It will be a standalone. The details will come out of that, and then almost all the ministers will have something. I'm very sure of that.
Minister Nene also addressing the fears around SARS and coming forward with the advisory commission that will be deployed to SARS. Do you think that is enough, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, look, I think SARS has historically been a fantastic institution here in South Africa. So all of the issues that have surfaced more recently are extremely unfortunate. But I do believe that I think we'll get beyond those, and I think that commission will get SARS back to where it previously was.
Minister, just from a general budget perspective, are there any other omissions from your perspective?
Well, I'm very happy with the budget. I think the minister really did try to balance a very difficult situation. But for me, from small business development, the president summed it up. He said small business is big business. And I think that moving on to the next level, to the next step, Of course, we have to be cautious, and everybody, including small businesses, have to be cautious. They need to make sure that they spend the money very well. They must make sure that they are trained properly so that they can even be able to manage the very little that they have. From the department's point of view, we will step up our support for small businesses and cooperatives.
In a nutshell, does the budget get the thumbs up from big business in your view, Mike?
I think the Minister did a really good job in a tough set of circumstances, so I'd give him a thumbs up.
Do you think the rating agencies are going to give him a thumbs up, or are you expecting moves on that front?
I think the rating agencies will give him thumbs up for the budget. The harder part is delivering what the budget actually has in it, and in particular, the constraint and efficiencies promised around expenditure.
I just want to touch finally on GDP growth, that coming in now as expected at 2% GDP growth for 2015, up to 2.4% 2016, and then hitting 3% 2017. You think that's realistic?
I do think it's realistic. Actually, coming into the budget speech, our economist had GDP growth next year at 2.5% with some downside risk. So I do think it is realistic, and it's realistic given the really big effect that the electricity constraints have on growth. There simply isn't enough electricity to grow faster.
Minister for Business Lindiwe Zulu, thank you so much for joining us. Mike Brown, the CEO of Nedbank.